Hey, Katerina here with my sister Amanda.
Hi.
For the first time. She has never been on the podcast before.
Yep, I'm doing it. It makes me nervous, but I don't say no to Kat, so here I am.
Yet again, a person who loves me so much they couldn't deny me, even though I'm making them uncomfortable. And all the props to people who step out of their comfort zones. Amanda leaves the country in a few days.
So this was like the last chance for
This is it. This is literally
into this.
the last opportunity I had to have her on the podcast, which makes me very sad. Oh my gosh, and Salem's already waking up.
You can go get her.
Okay, Amanda, what I'm gonna say, what I would like you to talk about. So the podcast today is gonna be about finding your tribe and building a community. And the reason why I feel like Amanda's a really good person for this topic is because she is married to an army man, an officer in the military. I don't know if I'm saying any of that right.
It's okay. I can tell them about why if you go
yes,
get the baby.
I will go get the baby. Amanda, you tell them about your life and why you've had to be good at this, and I'll be right back.
Sounds good. So we move every few years, and that forces us to remake friends every few years. And I realized the first time we moved, we had just graduated college, my spouse and I, and we were like at this base for a few months and then went to our permanent duty station for the next few years. And I realized I had no idea how to make friends with other adults, people with jobs, and also moms, because I didn't have a child. So I had figured out what that looks like in college, but then like, what am I supposed to ask these people to do with me? We aren't gonna go out and party, but they have kids. Like, I didn't know what it looked like. So I learned a lot about what it looked like to actually make friends, be friends with adults, and how to be intentional and nurture those friendships. And then more about how to figure out what people I want to be around and really invest in those relationships versus having like tons of people that are kind of surface level, kind of diving in deep with a few of my favorite souls. Which is something that you might think you would just know how to do, but to me, I don't know, it wasn't something that I learned growing up to nurture friendships. So I think I'm so blessed to have had made a few really wonderful friends at our first duty station that taught me what it looked like to be that kind of friend. And I try to be that for the people around me. I just kind of told them about
you're moving,
the way,
building.
All the things.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Thank you for catching me up while I grabbed a baby. And I just heard you touch on it. I don't think either of us had good friend keeping, building skills.
No.
We had friends when we were kids, but I think when you're kids, and even in college, it's kind of easy to make and keep friends because you're in the same community, you're going to school together, you're in classes, so it's like forced quality time.
Yeah, for sure. And also, so Kat's not like this. I'm speaking for myself. I am not only an introvert, but also slow to warm up, as I use that phrase to talk about my children, or otherwise known as shy, in public situations. But really, like, I truly am happy by myself. Like, it fills my soul to be alone. So, goodness, buddy. I like don't have as much of a need to be around people, so I end up with friends, or I did early on in my life, that pursued me. So I was just kind of existing, and my friends were the people who were like, I want to be your friend, let's be friends. Like Kat forces her friendship on me, which I love. I love. And now I would pursue her friendship more than I used to be able to do that. But anyway, my friends were people who made the friendship. I didn't have many friends we were friends because of me.
And do you think I mentioned this to you last night, I feel like Amanda's also a really good person to hear, like you said, about this from, because you are slow to warm up. She's an introvert, she's shyer, she's a homebody. And I think people tell me if you think I'm wrong or right about this. I feel like people would assume that I think I do make friends easy, but I don't know that I always knew how to make deep relationships and keep them when it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because I'm an extrovert. There's well, you can kind of put people in one of three categories. It's easy, difficult, and slow to warm up. I'm difficult. So I'm not slow to warm up. So I think like I can connect with people pretty quickly and have always had that skill, but I think it's a different skill to find like the people that you really want to have in your life in a meaningful way, and then to be a good friend.
Yeah, I remember my first year of college, I called Kat one night and was like, I have these friends. Now that I'm saying this, I'm hoping none of them would be listening to this podcast, but I don't think that they are. But I have these friends and we have fun and whatever, but these don't feel like my people. They're not the kind of people that I feel the most comfortable around. Like I don't have to be thinking about what I'm gonna say or feel like I can be totally myself with. And she said, that's okay. Like, that's normal. When I was in school, I had the same experience. It takes time to find your people. And it's okay for you to have friends like that in the interim. But when you find the ones that really you feel super connected to and they show up for you and bring you joy to be around, pursue those friendships. And I, like, repeated that to myself often until I eventually did find friends that I just love to death. And I saw a bunch of them this week since we're about to leave the country and we're back on the East Coast, and they are friendships that I've kept. But there's a difference between like the two types of friendships for sure. Just having a bunch of friends or having people that are your tribe.
Your inner circle.
Yeah.
Gosh, I love that. I had kind of forgotten about that. And I had the same, that was my experience in college, and I think sometimes it's something you have to learn the hard way. And then I think becoming an adult, it's like you're learning all over again because you're not stuck in classes and social groups and dorm rooms and stuff with people. So you have to pursue adult friendships differently. So when you move somewhere new, Amanda, okay, Lola, absolutely not. You're gonna get kicked outside, girlfriend. How do you approach finding some community? Because like the first step, like you said, it's not like the first person you're gonna come across is gonna be your soulmate, but it's okay to not want to be alone all the time, and it's good for you to be with people.
Yeah, I was actually just poloing someone about this the other day because they were somewhere trying to make new friends at a new place. And what I had told her was pick a few activities. So for me, it might look like a Bible study on post, story time at the library, going to the park regularly, and maybe reaching out to a few spouses that I meet with my husband's work. Whatever it is, like put yourself in a few situations intentionally to meet people. And two things will happen. One is you're just filling your days around other people. So whether you actually make friends at these things or not, as I am a stay-at-home mom. As a stay-at-home mom, we can't just stay isolated all the time. So it's important that we're around people, even if it's not producing friendship. But number two is that
I'm so sorry, Lola, please lay down.
She's like circling the room.
She's just pacing.
Is that if you do 100% of those things that I just listed, 80% of the time you're gonna make maybe no friends or surface level friendships that just don't really produce anything. But 20% eventually will probably end up with people that you really love and end up doing life with. So I think you've got to stick it out, and then you can kind of weed out the things where you're like, I don't know, I've been going to this for 6 months. I don't meet anybody. I don't love the people there. I'm just going to cut this out. We don't have time or energy for it. And that's what I've done everywhere I go is I try a handful of different things and then stick with the ones that have people that I connect with at.
like that.
Yeah, and in the meantime, just do some of the things so that we're not lonely during the day, because it takes time. It's not fair to expect yourself to meet your new best friend within the first week of moving somewhere. That would be great, but that's not usually how it goes.
That's how it goes in the movies, Amanda.
Yes.
You move to a new place, and as you're like picking the first box out of your truck, your new best friend actually walks
She lives
up
next
to
door.
you, and she lives across the street.
Yeah.
That's how that works. And there are going to be so many grunty baby noises in this podcast.
There's
Like
a few children.
both of them are like, so
That's
that's what that is, in case you're wondering. There are 2 infants of the same age here, and they make high noises.
Yeah. So I would like to know, though, that's how I do it as a stay-at-home mom. What do friendships look like for you as a working mother?
Gosh, it's so hard. I was definitely lonely out of college. There are going to also be diaper changing noises. There have been podcasts before, though, where there's like audible pooping happening from Salem.
Okay.
So it doesn't get worse than that. Or like, the dog being obnoxious. So like right out of college, my coworkers, I was 21, and my coworkers were all 35-year-old men. And they were all really nice and really cool, but obviously those are not going to be your best friends. That would be inappropriate and weird outside of the office. Like, I felt like I had friendships with them, but not the kind that you can like go hang out. So it is hard. And then like when you have kids, you have so little free time. So I think I have spent times feeling lonely until I learned how to build meaningful community in those places. And for me, it started as networking. And I was networking for business. And then what I learned was every now and then when you're networking, you come across someone who you actually click with. Like Alexis Opachin is a great example of somebody who I met through networking. And the first time we sat down to get coffee, we just like clicked, and it was like we were so similar, and we had all these things in common, and it was like really fun. And we both have very busy full schedules, but we've like circled back around to each other again and again. And then as I had kids, I had to learn to let people who offered to help be my people and show up for me. And that's like one way that you learn who your people are. And then on top of that, what my work environment, because then I was in real estate, and then the brokerage grew, and all of this grew. But I think opening yourself up to connections with people who you wouldn't have thought would be your people. I'm so close with some wonderful people now where, wow, Salem, the first like day, you want to see the camera? What are you doing? The snorting. I think the first day meeting them, I probably would have been like, or just like, oh, we're not exactly the same. But honestly, like, I've learned that your people don't actually have to be just like you. And a lot of my really good friends are not working mothers. They're like single people, or they might be stay-at-home moms, or they might be working mothers where we never get together with our kids. We only get together without our kids, and that's better. And the friendship can be a little more meaningful that way, because when you get together with other parents and your kids are there, there's very little quality conversation happening.
For sure, yeah.
So I think for me, it's like, okay, when can we grab a free night, or which one of us can go to the other's house with a bottle of wine after the kids go to bed?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's so sweet when you make a friend that is a lot like you, but that's really rare, especially as a parent, because I mean, there's just so many things to have opinions about in parenting, and that's one reason that it's like can be easier to hang out with people without your kids present, because it can be hard to watch people parent in a way that differs so much than you're convicted to parent. But I think something about my personality must attract people who are like my sister, because I have so many friends like her, and we're so different. Like, I don't know if it's like an Enneagram type thing or what, these different personalities are attracted, but it's true. Like, you don't have to be friends with people who are just like you, and I definitely have these friendships that seem very unexpected. or like you said, you might meet them and be like, okay, whatever, and then later years down the road, you're like, we're best friends. How did that, like, why did I think that to start with?
You learn to really appreciate them, or you start learning things about them where you're like, you're a super quality person.
Yeah. And maybe some of it's maturity, like,
people change.
Right. Maybe as a freshman in college, I was looking for people who dress super cute and were bubbly and whatever. And now I need people who will show up for me when I'm vomiting on the couch and my husband's deployed. I need you to bring me Panera because I can't cook. Like, that's the friend that I need. So it does change over time. But yeah, those unexpected friendships seem to be the sweetest ones for me.
And then, so like, when you come across somebody, let's say either it's like a Bible study or it's a meetup group or like their groups, you can find them on Facebook. Like, I think if you go on Facebook and you search your area, you can find like mom groups or things that you like, groups for if you're into rock climbing or like whatever if you these baby noises are going to continue the whole time, so if you don't like it, now would be the time to stop listening. But if you don't have kids, so you can have hobbies, like whatever your hobby is, like finding groups in your area, probably through like Facebook and stuff, or meetups.
Definitely.
And then you come across somebody who you think it might be cool to get to know that person better. What does it look like for you to pursue a relationship with that person?
Yeah, I've made a commitment to myself when we move somewhere new that I have to be brave. In social situations, and it's uncomfortable for me, but yeah, so if I go somewhere and I'm like, I hope to meet someone new when I'm going here. If I meet someone, this is a conversation in my head with myself, if I meet someone who I really like, I'm gonna ask them for their number and try to meet up with them. So like one example is I went to this play group, and this girl came and sat down next to me, and she was new. I had been a few times, and she was so cute, and the way she was talking to her son was just so respectful, and I was like instantly attracted to the way she was acting and the whole thing. So it ended, and she started to leave, and I was like, dang it, I didn't get her number. That makes me so sad. And so I like chased after her on the playground, which is a little extreme. But I asked her for her number, and she ended up being my best friend at Fort Sill, which is where we just PCS'd from. And I'm so thankful that I did that, even though it might have been even weird at the time, but for sure out of my comfort zone. But if we don't do that, you're not always going to get a chance to meet someone over and over again and do it more naturally, especially in the military. We don't have a long time to be somewhere. So you can't, it's not like you work with someone or
you can't take a
go
decade.
To school, right? Because sometimes friendships do take a long time. I don't have time to do that. We're there for maybe 2 years. I've heard people stay places for 3, but we've never been anywhere that long. So I have to act quickly if I feel like I've met someone that I want to be friends with or get to know more. It's like dating. It is legitimately like dating to make new friends, or maybe even more uncomfortable than dating.
No, that's actually exactly what I was about to say. Is I think our society puts all this value on romantic love and relationships, and so sometimes we end up not realizing that we, especially as adults, should probably approach friendships the way you would approach a romantic relationship. So like, when you feel a connection with somebody, you kind of have to say it and pursue them. And like, I really like how you said you make a commitment to yourself ahead of time, because I see how it can be intimidating to do that, especially if you lean towards the slow to warm up. Like, you would want more time to naturally feel comfortable with that conversation, but you don't always have that time or that opportunity. I know, Seema, but I do have to wipe you. But I think there's all this value put on romantic relationships in our society, and friendship love is extremely important and very good for us.
Okay.
This is
Here we are.
I appreciate you doing this with me, Amanda, with 2 babies. But I know it's a lot of poop. So I'm wiping Salem currently, so she's not appreciating it at all. But I have felt like I definitely did a bad job in my early adulthood treating my friends that way. And so maybe there were friends where I could have had more quality time with them or close relationships, or like they lived in Richmond and now they don't, and I wish I had taken more advantage of the time they were here.
Yeah.
And I think I've learned valuable lessons about that. And honestly, I think when you build meaningful relationships with friends, those are almost more, it's trickier, but more valuable than a romantic relationship if you're dating, because the friendships actually really could last forever. And like the romantic relationship, if you get one that lasts forever, you're really lucky. Whereas like you can have handfuls of friendships that will last forever, and people can mean something to you and you can mean something to them for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And I've heard people say, I'm not a people person. I like my own space. I'm not someone who gets along with girls. And I just want to say to those people, you might not have met the right people.
100%. 100%.
There's such variety.
Yes. Just because you've met a bunch of girls or you've had girl friendships, you hear girls say it a lot.
Yeah,
where they're like, I just don't like women. And I get feeling that way. I understand. And I think in high school, there were a lot of girls that I was like, oh, I do not like being around this group. And I did have I think we had a lot of friends that were guys in high school because of that. But I will say, woman to woman, women are amazing. And if the group that you fell into or the friendships you've had, like people are catty or dramatic or not genuine or whatever, you can have those same relationships with men that are crap. There's not like I don't know if you could probably hear it because of the microphone. There's just a lot of pooping and
bodily fluids
and things happening with the babies. But you can have terrible relationships with men as well, because people come anywhere on a spectrum. So it doesn't matter if the person is a man or a woman. What matters is, are they a quality human and are they a good fit for you? And if they're not, like, peace out.
For sure. But don't isolate yourself because you've had some bad experiences with some people, because you'd be really missing out on one of life's greatest gifts, right? There's some amazing things in life, you know, one is food, but people is definitely like the huge one for me, like having children. But it makes me sad when I hear women or men say that, because they're doing themselves a disservice by not putting themselves out there anymore. And that's not to say you don't have boundaries with some friendships or from the start.
So I think one thing that I've seen with some of my friends, especially if you're a really sweet, kind person, is I do know some people who have trouble discerning between like a good friend and a not good friend. Like, where's the line of like, you know what, I don't need to foster a relationship with this person at all anymore. I need distance from this person, versus like I need to pursue this person and give them more chances. Do you have any thoughts on that? So like, for example, I had a friend who like said that she was really, really tired and having a hard week, and she had a friend reach out to her and was like, I need to get a drink, I've had a hard day. And she was like, I've actually had a really hard day too, and I need to go home and take a nap. And her friend was really mad at her, like genuinely angry at her for saying she needed rest. And I felt like, I was like, that's not cool, because what you're saying, if you say you have a need and your friend says they have a need and you get mad at them for that, you're saying my need is more important than yours.
Yeah.
And like, maybe they were just having a really bad week, but I don't think that person came back and apologized. I think they just stayed angry. And like, to me, I feel like if you act or say or imply with your actions that your need is more important than mine, then we're not the kind of friends that I need to invest a lot of my energy in.
Yeah, I don't have friendships that have drama. I mean, there's little stuff where, like, maybe that person came over and they didn't respect a very small boundary, right? Like, we're all different people.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that's gonna happen. If it's something really simple that you can work out with the person or just let go, fine. If it's something that, like, you harbor bitterness over, that you might not need that person in your life. So the friends that I've had in the past, that eventually I ended up feeling like, I don't like this, the way this person makes me feel about myself when I'm around them is negative, or the way I feel about them when I'm around them is negative. I don't cut people out, but I'm going to stop investing time there because there's no need for that. And there's so many people in the world. It doesn't have to be that way. So I think the people that show up for you, that support you, and like, as someone who's married, who aren't going to come in and talk junk about my spouse, mm-hmm. or could be an objective listener without, trying to make judgments or tell other people. Those are the qualities that I look for in a friend, and if someone can't be that, then I'm out. If I meet someone who's gossiping a lot about someone else, probably don't want to be their friend because I don't want to be talked about like that. So I think, if you're uncomfortable in any way, or you don't like the way that person makes you feel when you're around them, then
it's not for you.
Yeah, you probably need to move on.
I like that. No friendships with drama is probably a good, and that might feel like a hard line to draw, but I think maybe you would find that if you draw that line, then you go, oh, these people that I did keep around, it's so much more valuable to me.
Yeah.
And I think for me, one thing that's helped me figure out who my inner circle is, because I think because I am an extrovert and a networker and all of this, I know a lot of people in Richmond, and I've stayed in one place, so I don't move every couple years.
Yeah.
I mean, I do move, but like in Richmond. I've moved
your address
constantly.
changes all the time.
I've never had the same address for more than 2 years. It's until now. This one will probably stick around, but I've stayed within the greater Richmond area. And I think for me, one thing that I've learned is that when someone has an expectation of me showing up for them in a certain way, but then they don't show up for me in that way when I'm in a similar difficult place, that shows me, not that they're a bad person, I don't think it's on purpose, but that person is going to take so much more than they can give, and that can't be my inner circle, because honestly, like, friendships have to be give and take to be quality, like any relationship. And sometimes I'm going to have more to pour out, and sometimes you're going to have more to pour out. But are you there for each other when that other person needs you, whether it's just like emotionally, mentally, or with like actual physical help? I don't want to be friends with someone whose expectations of me are more than they expect of themselves in our friendship.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I like that you said, like, maybe they're not a bad person or haven't done something wrong. They might be in a different stage of life. So someone who doesn't have a newborn baby can probably show up for their friends in a deeper way than you can. They might be expecting more from you. But if you're not in a season where you can give that, then that just is what it is.
Yeah, I think a couple things there. One is, I recently told somebody that when it can be hard, if you're going through a season of life that your friends have never been through, for them to know how to show up for you. Yeah. So I think especially when you're in your 20s, it can be really difficult, because you might be like getting married, having babies, you might have a parent die, and your friends have never been through any of that, and they don't know how to support you, and you don't know how to ask. And so forgive people for that, because it's not always on purpose. And then I think the older you get and the more your friends go through, the more we know how to show up for each other. And I'm guilty of that too. And also, though, I think you're right. Like, I think sometimes it's okay to say, I think we've seen, there's like a meme or something for this where it's like, I'm not the strong friend right now.
Yeah.
And I think having people in your life where you can say, I am not the one who can show up for other people right now. If they can respect that, awesome. If they can't, it might not be your people, you know? And that's okay. And different people can show up for people in different ways, and also respecting that. Like you said, like someone who has a newborn baby cannot come to your house and cook you a meal when you just had a newborn baby, probably, because they're also struggling.
Yeah.
So that's not, like, I have a single mom friend who I adore, and she was able to bring me dinner one night that was like takeout and a bottle of wine. And that's probably, we've only seen each other a couple times since Salem was born, and that's okay. Her life is extremely chaotic and hectic, and the fact that she showed up for me at all was like a really big deal. And like every now and then she just checks in, and that is really sweet. Whereas like Betsy will come over here sometimes and make me a salad and do my dishes, and like that is so loving and sweet, and it's what she can do in that moment.
Yeah. I think something to note on that too is part of investing in a friendship and going deeper with someone is accepting help. And for some people that's easier than others, but you're actually building intimacy with this person by letting them come in and make you a salad or fold your laundry or bring you a meal. That feels very hard for me. I don't like to accept favors from other people, but most recently in the past few years, I realized this person loves me even more if they can show up for me in this way. I'm not taking from them and like emptying them when they're offering to do this for me. It's okay, but also it is deepening our friendship. So
that's a great point.
It can be hard, but it's good to allow.
Hard and feel very vulnerable to allow someone to help you. And I do remember with my first couple kids, sometimes somebody would reach out and be like, hey, like, can I come over and watch the baby? And I'd be like, no, I'm fine. And I wasn't fine. But I didn't want to be vulnerable, and I didn't want to feel like a burden or be taking, because like I could do it, and like I feel like I'll survive it, it's whatever. But I think, and that's one of the things that in the last couple years, in the last year, has been a beautiful side effect of life being challenging, is having to accept help from my friendship community and from my inner circle, and people knowing that you need help and offering it, and learning to be like, yeah, you know what, it would be great if you brought lunch, or it would be great if you came over and hung out with me and my kids. It would make this afternoon a lot more bearable.
Yeah.
And there is more love there. You feel love for them because they've just shown up for you, and you do feel more love for people when you've poured into that relationship.
Yeah. And it makes your life easier.
And it's just nice. Just accept the help.
Yeah, like it is okay to relax and be okay with that. But it can be hard for sure. So I think sometimes when I go, I do a lot of play dates because I stay home with babies. And when I go over to someone's house, I try to think, before I leave, what can I do for this person that could help them, make them feel loved, be like practically good in their life. And my love language is acts of service, but it might look like if we ate lunch over there, I do their dishes really fast, definitely like clean up after ourselves. I might have brought a snack for them. Like, what could I do today that would make this friend feel loved? And something that a friend of mine did, a newish friend I've met in the past 2 years, something that she does that I love and have picked up on, is after we hang out, she'll send a text that like affirms that she had a good time. So if we hung out all morning, she'll then text me later and be like, I'm so glad we got to spend the morning together, thankful for a friend like you. And I realized that by doing that, she's telling you, I like you and I want to spend more time with you, because sometimes we hang out with people and think, I had a good time, I hope they feel the same way. So it seems to help speed things along. If you had a good time, affirm that and tell that person that's how you felt.
Oh, I like that. I really like that. And I feel like you told me that a while ago, and I've tried to apply that to my friendships. And it goes back to like treating it almost like you would, with the same respect, a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
And speak and act with love towards a person. It is okay to be vulnerable and be honest about how much you like somebody in a friendship, and they probably love to hear it as much as you would love to receive it.
For sure.
trying to recognize, I think also our love languages in our friends. Like I've tried to be better about sensing what somebody's love language is and loving them in that way. So like I don't buy presents for all of my friends, all of the people I know at Christmas. That's not my way. But I do have some friends where I know that their love language is gift giving. And so it's important, I think, to try to think about them in that way, because I think they're going to feel that love. And you can see it when someone receives love in their love language. So like some people, the words mean more. Sometimes it's the gifts or the acts of service. But I think I love that, like before you leave someone, thinking about how can I show love or like show up for this person right now.
Yeah. Since I most recently had a baby, one of my friends came over to my house and did my laundry for me, and it was like so life-giving. And of course at some point in time I would have been able to do the laundry, but the way that she showed up for me in that moment, obviously laundry's not fun. It was like so loving, and she's obviously paying attention to what would have made me feel loved. But I think that's the core of the whole thing, is just being really intentional, just like you would dating or in a romantic relationship, being really intentional to invest in that relationship if it's something that you want to go deeper in. We can't really go deeper with other people if we're not being intentional. If you're not texting them, asking them to hang out, or showing up for them, nothing's gonna happen. And then don't be surprised if one day you're like, I don't have a lot of friends. That makes sense, because you're not putting time and effort into it. And it's not something that always comes naturally or is convenient.
And I think anything in life, literally anything, if you don't intentionally input into it, if you're not upkeeping it intentionally, it's going to fall into disrepair.
Yeah.
I mean, your house, your car, your romantic relationships, your friendships,
your health,
your career, your health, anything that you are not actively working on keeping up with maintenance and energy and time is going to fall apart. So you're right, if you don't put effort into it, you can't be surprised when you're like, I don't have any real friends. Like that is your fault, and that's okay, and we fall into these things. But I think recognizing that and going, okay, what can I do to find people or to be more intentional about my friendships and like invest in somebody that I think would be fun to be around is important, so that you don't fall into like habitual loneliness for the wrong reasons.
Yes, for sure. And if you find yourself with maybe not a lot of friends, or a lot of friendships that have drama, I think it's important to look at ourselves and ask ourselves if you're the problem. Because sometimes we are not perfect people. You might be the cause of the drama. If all of your friends you have drama with, it's probably you. And that's okay, because that's in your control. Right. Let's fix some things. But maybe you're not being a great friend. Maybe you're a little selfish or not asking about them when you hang out together. You gotta be aware of that. So if you find yourself in that situation, don't stress out. It can be changed, but you might have to make some changes in the way that you interact with the friends that you have now, or acting different so that you can make friends, being more intentional.
Or asking yourself, did I have expectations of this person that I wasn't willing to meet myself in this friendship?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good point. Sometimes we are the problem, which is really hard to face.
That hurts, but that's okay, because we're not gonna act perfect all the time. It's just not.
We're not gonna be perfect, and it's okay. And I think also like apologizing in friendships, like we need to normalize that more. If you realize you might have done something, or if you feel like you might have, like, say something.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like a giant uncomfortable conversation. It is okay to just say, hey, I said this last time we hung out, and later was thinking about it. That was kind of rude. The way I said that, I meant this. And that's the same in parenting. I try to do all the time. If I look back on something and it felt wrong, just saying that to my kids right away, versus having to live with something that I feel sad about.
Yeah, I've been apologizing to my kids a lot
lately. Constantly. It's just
in this season of life, I feel like I have a lot to apologize for.
Yeah, but there's no reason to not do that in friendships too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we should always be self-reflecting about any behavior we have, and thinking like, am I okay with how I acted here? And maybe you totally are, and it's good. And
Yeah.
maybe you're like, I probably could have been kinder or gentler or whatever it is, or less judgmental in this. I think I try to, if I am giving advice or telling someone how I feel, when they're sharing with me about their situation, trying to preface what I say with like, this is not coming from a place of judgment, and I just love you, and no matter what you're doing, that doesn't change my opinion of you. This is how I feel about it. Or asking like, would you like my opinion?
I love that. I feel like I've heard you do that a few times, and I really like that.
I think it's important, especially I am a brutally honest individual.
Opinionated.
And I'm very opinionated, and I will come in hot with my opinions. So I've realized that, and I think in healing more and more in myself, I've realized that I do want to be an honest friend, and I do not want to withhold my opinion when I might be able to help somebody, but asking someone if they're ready for that is important, because they might not be.
Yeah. Or maybe just they might respond with, I do want to hear this, but today I can't.
Right.
So no, please just let me vent.
So, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to just share, or would you like to know how I feel about this?
I like that.
And then it gives someone an opportunity to save you from hurting their feelings also.
I heard a friend of mine was talking about friendships one time, and she said, I try to be a friend that listens to listen instead of listening to respond. And I think about that all the time, because how often do I catch myself while someone's talking thinking about the next thing I'm going to say versus really absorbing what this person is saying. You don't have to respond all the time. You can sit and just be listening. A lot of times we don't want advice back from somebody or a response. We just want to share. We just need to tell someone what's going on.
Or I feel like I've said this to you before, recognizing when you're triggered by a certain situation and saying like, I'm here to listen to you, but I don't think I'm a great person to give advice on this topic.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have good advice for you, especially if you feel like you have a really strong reaction to something. You can be like, obviously, with the things that I've experienced, I feel this way about this thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I can give you good advice here, but I am here to listen, and I'm sorry.
That makes sense. I mean, Kat, I don't come to you with so much marriage stuff. I'll tell you, like, this is what's going on, but you'll say, you know how I feel about this.
Right.
We'll leave it at that if you...
Major leave your man energy. I have no tolerance in my body, and I have no compromise in my body. And so, like, I am here for the people that I love. If they want to talk about, like, a romantic relationship difficulty, I am here for them. But I do think sometimes it's like, but I'm not here to give because my advice is probably going to be like, draw a hard line in the sand.
She's probably not going to make you want to stay after, but I will still talk to Kat about some of it, and she'll say, you know, I would leave. That's hard, but I still feel like I can talk to her and she'll just listen.
Which I think the important point there is not pushing, like, just because you would react to I have my own agenda, you have yours, and I don't need to push mine on you. And just because you're going to treat a situation differently than I would does not make it wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
And like, maybe I have run out of all the compromise that I have in my body, but you haven't. And so, like, just because my reaction is like, well, I wouldn't compromise at all and I would give nothing in this situation, that doesn't mean that's the right choice for you in your situation.
And the things we want in life might be different. So it's okay if the answer is different for both of us.
Oh, for sure. And I think people all the time fall into this trap of feeling like what is correct for them in their life has to be correct for everyone else. And if you do something differently than how I would do it, it's like, yes, Bennett. If you do something differently than how I would do it, it's like you're saying that my way, the way I did it, was wrong. And that's not what they're saying. It's just maybe not for them. So it's not a personal attack if they approach something differently than you would.
Yeah, I totally agree. Everyone's goals are different, energies are different. capacities for things.
And that's okay.
For sure.
And I think that's kind of a beautiful thing about friendship too, is like you can be really close with somebody that personality type or their values wouldn't be good for you in a romantic relationship. You can have in a friendship, because we don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to see things the same way. We don't have to approach life the same way. Like maybe you're someone who parties a certain amount, and if I was dating you, it would be too much. But as your friend, like it's not my problem. It's not my business. Like when you show up here, I really like you and enjoy you. So it's not a problem if you're a good friend to me. If you make lifestyle choices that I wouldn't want to be tied to romantically, that's fine. And that could be fine in a friendship.
Yeah.
Which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, for sure.
As Mindy Kaling would say, best friend is a tier, not a person.
We say that all the time, and it's so true. It's okay to have like a whole group of your favorite people. Also, I think there's this thought process that I've heard a lot of my peers say, like, I don't have a lot of friends. And who said that you need a lot of friends? You don't need 20 best friends. I don't have time or capacity for that. I could never maintain that many friends in this season of life. It is okay. You're not doing anything wrong if you have a handful of really wonderful people that you go deep with. If that fills your soul, you don't need to meet some quota of what you think it looks like on maybe what we've seen on TV or in a book or whatever. That doesn't matter. It's about like, what do you need in your life? What fills you? Pursue that. And that's good enough. You don't need to meet anyone else's standard of what you think it might look like.
Oh, I really like that. And you're completely right. And I feel like I've had to learn that. Like, you can know a lot of people, you can enjoy a lot of people, but finding the people who can be your inner circle that you can really invest in, you can only invest well in so many people.
Yeah.
And there is so much wonderful things to reap and sow in relationships where you do go deep and that are meaningful, and it fills a different cup. Oh my goodness, these babies. Okay.
Reaching their capacity.
Yep. Do you have any other thoughts, Amanda, on this?
I think just if you find yourself like, okay, I want to be a different kind of friend, look at friendships in your life people in your life that you look up to and try to emulate what they're doing. I think that's a good place to start.
When someone does something that feels good to you, question how you could also be that person to someone else.
Yes.
I love that. Thank you, Amanda, for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Amanda is my favorite person, and she's leaving the country in a few days, and I really appreciate her coming on here and doing this with me before she is in another country, and I'm gonna miss her, and I love her so much, and I love all of the life lessons that we've been able to help each other with.
Yeah. This is why you need siblings as some of your closest friends, because they're forced to be your friend even through the ugly parts of you.
Find people that love you no matter what.
Definitely. Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Amanda.